Hey everyone! What's an indigo adult? Why does it matter if you're an indigo adult? If you are, what do you need to know for 2013 and your life in general? We're going to talk about that, levels of consciousness, and a whole lot more tonight. And we have a special show. I'm Skyping from Natchitoches, Louisiana, with my extraordinary sidekick, Sybil Rhodes, life adventurer. Say hey, Sybil.
Hi. Welcome to Natchitoches.
Well, as it's my show, I always like to test things out, and we're going to do a new segment tonight that has to do with getting off the couch. For our regular listeners, you know, I'm all about watching the show and inspiring you to live your most extraordinary life. So this week, I want you to think about the question, what does it mean to be extraordinary? I think a lot of times our society tells us we need to win a gold medal. We need to be a famous actor. We maybe need to do something heroic and save people from a burning building. But I want you to challenge yourself and come up with your own definition of what it means to be extraordinary. Sybil, who's sitting here with me tonight, has led one of the most extraordinary lives of anyone that I've ever known. And she hasn't done anything that's made her famous, but she's lived a life that is worthy of living and has squeezed all she can out of life. And I'm going to encourage you, if you haven't seen my interview with her this past April, to check it out because you will truly be inspired. So this week's assignment is for you to think about what does it mean to be extraordinary and how can I be extraordinary in my own life. Now we're going to tell you about tonight's guest. Terri Cmorey always understood she perceived reality differently than those around her. At the age of 14, she read a book by Raymond Moody called Life After Life, which introduced her to the concept of near-death experiences. This information was a confirmation and served as a conduit, providing insight and understanding into her gift as a medium. As her gift developed, Terri could no longer deny she was a conduit of comfort and healing. Through her readings, she encourages others to awaken to the truth of who they really are. Her intent is to take away the fear of death of the physical body and help others understand we are all eternal spiritual beings. Even though the physical body is no longer present, the spirit that is crossed over is and always will be available to us. Terri's first level of receiving information relies upon her feelings. The second level involves hearing followed by the mental interpretations of symbols and images. She utilizes the intuitive mind and is able to become receptive to the energies operating beyond the 5 sensory levels of perception. Welcome, Terri.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Sybil. Hi.
We're pleased to have you tonight, and thanks for being a trooper and going into the studio while I'm down here in Louisiana.
Thank you.
So, really excited about tonight, but let's get started. A lot of times we've heard the term indigo children, but never indigo adults. So tell us, what's that about?
Well, I think that, when we start to talk about indigo and what that means, many of the ancient seers would actually be able to look in auric fields and look at the color indigo collectively in the fields of people. And so as we've evolved and as we've become more refined today, what we're having are these energy signatures that are being made available to those that have that perception to see. So the indigo carries a certain color or tonation, if you will. Beyond that, an indigo adult, I can only talk from my experiences and my perception and my perspective again, but as a young child, I always knew I was different. I always felt like I was never really from here and couldn't figure out what the heck everybody was doing, running around and down here in this reality. But as I grew, I awakened. So I am an indigo adult. Think of it as sleeping, but knowing I was different as a young child and through my teens and young adulthood. But really awakening once I reached my late 20s and early 30s to understand that there was something clearly different about me and how I expressed and perceived reality.
Now, can you explain to us, what do you mean that you awakened?
Well, when we talk about levels of awakening, it was kind of like, I refer to my awakening as, and for indigo adults in general, as an adult, I started to be able to consciously perceive beyond the five sensory perception or visible light, that narrow bandwidth of frequency that we operate in. I was able to start to pull information from these interdimensional realms that existed simultaneously, right? Just like the visible electromagnetic spectrum that we operate within. And so I started to be able to perceive overlapping parallels and dimensions of time. Sounds crazy. I mean, but it isn't, because there's so many of us today that are awakening, that are able to go beyond the five senses. You know, see, touch, taste, smell, hear. Really, as an indigo or as an awakened individual, we're going beyond those five senses, and we're going to feeling, trusting, intuiting, sensing, right? We're using other levels of our consciousness or awareness, and this is really what an indigo is.
Okay, we've already got a couple questions on chat for you, Terri.
Sure.
So I want to get to those. First one from Mr. Positive, great question. How do you know if you're an indigo adult?
Well, you know, I liken it to say that I think that there's many of us in this consciousness movement today that have been sleeping. We've been just slumbering, right? Knowing and sensing that things aren't as others have told us reality is, because we're starting to have psychic experiences or awarenesses or deja vu, whatever we're perceiving beyond the limitation of the five senses. So many times there's lists, you know, that they put out on the website for certain, information to deliver it. And I always tell people, the list is just a guideline that helps you look to see if you fall within a category. And if you don't within that list, please don't think that you're not indigo, because our ranges of perception vary. Okay, so to know you're an indigo, feeling like you're not from here, sensing there's something else going on around you, even though you might not see it with your eyes in the visible light spectrum, right? Strong intuition that there could be certain elements affecting your behavior or your thoughts. You know, perceiving outside the five dimensions and the five sensory level of perception.
Okay, great. We've got two more questions I want to get to on
Sure.
chat for you, Terri.
Sure.
Whatcha wants to know, is this a cult or religious order you operate for profit? And I can say no, but I will let you answer.
No. No. Nothing of the sort. It's just, I'm a simple soul who has an extraordinary life because I have extraordinary perceptions, and everybody does. It's just that I chose to look to see who I really am, the authentic self, the consciousness, the soul, you know.
Okay, great. Warrior Spirit asks, I want to be an indigo. What can I do? I want to be an advanced human. Excellent question. What would you say?
Well, it's really quite interesting. I would say that my journey started as a little child and is still going today. It's not like you arrive, right? There's no destination. It is just a journey, okay? So to become more aware of who you are as an individual, I think that we have to begin to look at the programming of consciousness that has taken place here on planet Earth, right? Because really, you're a spiritual being. You live in a body. Why we're hanging out on a planet called Earth that's moving throughout a solar system. I mean, okay, you got to know there's more to the story, to the nature of who we are, and what our true capabilities as a spiritual being really are. So it's like looking at belief systems, and I call them programs, right? The body-mind connection, the five senses. I am Terri, I am Julie, I am Sybil. Well, that's merely your experience while you're here. That's the body, that's the mind, that's an experience you're having. Who you really are is the spirit being, the infinite consciousness that dwells and gives life to the body while you're here. And it's those attributes of the spiritual awakening, really, that bring amazing joy to your life. it's not about fame and fortune and money and all that. This is simply about awakening to your spirit potential, and you do it by staying away from fear, moving away from negativity, right? Learning to care for your body, for your mind, for your spirit, high vibrational choices, and looking for truth, whatever that truth is that resonates with you.
Excellent. We've got a question here from Betty Johnson on chat. Mm-hmm. Betty says that she sees auras and wants to know if that means she's an indigo, and do all people that see auras, are they indigos?
Well, I mean, I didn't see auras until just a few years ago, and basically that's just not my thing, right? Doesn't mean I'm not an indigo. That's why I don't like these lists, right? And I don't even like the word indigo because it's more like a label or an identifier to try to define people who have awarenesses and experiences like seeing auras, or people who've crossed over on the other side, right, perceiving outside the 5 dimensions. I would say collectively, we are really at the core of who we are. We're all indigos, honestly, because humanity's consciousness is awakening. We're awakening.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. I think we all have to know that we have greatness inside of us, and that's really what gets me to do the show, because we all are, and we've just got to awaken to that and know that. We've got another question here from text. Do you do psychic readings? And that is a yes, because Terri is a psychic medium. We're not going to do any readings tonight. We'll give you her website at the end of the cast if you'd like to find out more information. And so Tex would like to know, what do you do exactly?
Well, from a child, I was always able to perceive. I could see other dimensions, other parallel realities. I had a very strong spiritual and psychic vent from a young child. As Julie said, I read the book by Raymond Moody, Life After Death, and that just woke me up to an innate skill that I had, which is being able to communicate with the other side. I denied it most of my life because I went into business and did other things, only to come back full circle to express it. But I work doing readings and sessions for people who are grieving. I work a lot with families who've lost children, which I prefer to do. But also I do a lot of education for people and understanding how they can access more of their multidimensional spiritual self.
And I want to remind all our viewers and listeners, if you have a question for Terri, chat it, and I'll be happy to ask, or you can call in at 919-518-9773, or Skype at Computers 2K Voice, and if you're watching, it's just right up there above the chat, all the numbers and how to Skype. Now, Terri, I also, when doing research, heard a term, first wave indigos. What does that mean?
Well, from my perspective, as we were talking prior to the show here, we acknowledged how beautiful Sybil is and her beautiful spirit and soul and the contribution she made to changing the collective consciousness fields, which we are all a part of, right? The collective awareness of all of us humans here on planet at this time. So I would say, from my perspective, it's like the torchbearers, the forerunners, the forebearers. They've been here laying down the track so that those of us can follow and build upon the awakening to help other people recognize their greatest sense of self, which is their spirituality. But if you look on the website, and I can't verify this, right? I have no way to verify these facts or figures, but what they're talking about on some of the websites that you might search is that for some, it actually means a period of time when incarnating souls came to Earth. So between 1969 and 1987, quote, somebody indicates 60% of those incarnating souls came in as indigos, okay? 30% were born in the 50s, with 10% of the stragglers before or after that. Like I said, I can't verify that, but that's kind of the genre and where they're going with that kind of information.
Question.
Okay, we've got a question from Sybil, and then I got a couple questions on chat, but
Sure.
Miss Sybil's up.
When you got past the 5 senses, and for a better word, I'm going to use enhancement, which enhancement in your life was the biggest thing? Since I don't know how else to say it, now
So you mean, is she Clairvoyant, meaning she sees, or clairaudient, she hears.
What was the catalyst? What was the real catalyst for me? Well, I came in with it like so many of us do, and I had a very amazing mother, very supportive of me. And I remember I was probably 5 or 6 years old riding my bicycle behind the alleyway in my house with the little flyers flying, and I'd be pedaling. And I'd have moments as a child where I always felt like I was lifting from the bike, disappearing, going to another world. And I'd come biking back home and run in the house emotional and filled with some fear. And I'd say, Mom, I just went to another world. And she'd look at me and say, well, I'm glad you're back. She didn't understand, but she was supportive. So it was her, it was that, but it was then at the age of 22, I was diagnosed with cancer. And that was the catalyst, because I knew my spirit said, okay, if I don't find a way to figure out how this was created and how this manifested, I'm not going to make it. So the only thing I hungered for was truth. I looked, read, went everywhere, right? And here I am today, like 30 years later, with an awareness. So that was really the catalyst. But like I say, it's a journey. It's not a destination. And I'm still a baby, still learning and willing to learn every single day to make new distinctions, right? And I think that's true for all of us. It's not a destination. It is a journey.
And we have a question here from Boy on chat. What do other dimensions look like? Are they big worlds out there that look like our world?
Well, let me tell you, some of these dimensions and timelines, because it's interchangeable, I really don't want to go to because I think what we have to understand is just outside of this visible light spectrum, it's a very small sliver of frequency that we actually decode reality within, right? Our brain is the decoder based on our belief systems, which blows my mind when you really kind of think about how the brain functions. But just outside of that realm, we have other dimensions and timelines with other levels of consciousness that coexist with us. Some friendly, some foe, okay? So, as always, like when I do readings or when we do sessions or when we're doing anything working with those realms, we really have to use a high level of discernment with what we're actually doing and where we're actually sourcing the information from, because there's tricksters out there, right? They don't do anything directly to us, but because it's all frequency and base waveform at the heart of who we really are, we need to be very careful. So the worlds can look amazing and beautiful. Crystal palaces and white lights. They can be, there's timelines and things out there where there's aging when you move and merge into them, that where time is totally changed. So it's perception again. And believe it or not, as an indigo, that's what we're really talking about, our multidimensional self, the multidimensional nature of who we are.
And we've got a great question and wonderful response, and we could do an entire show, I'm sure, on levels of consciousness alone. Mobley wants to know, what should we expect after December 21st, 2012?
Well, good question. I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out. And I think, honestly, people who make these predictions, look, I don't know how we can predict anything because the time fields and these dimensional timelines, they're collapsing. We all know time is changing for us. We can see it accelerating, and yet there's days that seem endless. We're getting a variety of those experiences. I really think that what is happening is, as we go through this particular timeline on 2012, we are going to be going into a different level of consciousness, because we're going to have different levels of energy or vibrational information available to us, where we're going to be able to really go in and use the gifts and the resources that we have within our individual spirits. And we can't do it alone. It's a group effort. I think it's going to be a very exciting time. I mean, we're already seeing, though, significant changes. We see the financial sector changing. I mean, there's a lot of clues to show you that those systems that were built on, I want to call them socially engineered structures of third dimensional lock-in mind control, for a better word. I mean, they're collapsing. They're collapsing. They're changing. And this is a good thing. We just don't want people to be hurt or harmed, but we need to see changes collectively in those structures, because it's our clue to know that new information and a new way of being more fair, more loving, more kind, we're moving to a new, it's the beginning of a new consciousness, and it's very exciting.
Excellent. We have a couple questions here on chat I want to get to. Lois wants to know, what benefit is there to see another dimension? Do these other dimensions have answers for us today?
Yes and no. Because it's, we can only, when we experience these other dimensions or timelines, it's not like we're going anywhere. We're perceiving them while our spirit is what is consciously activating and moving in and out of these timelines, right? So, yes, there is, but you have to remember, because also in these dimensional timelines, there has been, there's certain energy or cosmic forces that have been on those interdimensional planes that don't want us to access our true divinity. So there's been a lot of, I think a lot of your viewers can understand this: obstacles, delays, tactics, hurt, disappointment, chaos, whirling around us, and we're standing in a firestorm trying to figure out what the heck is going on in our life, right? So we have to remember that I believe as we go through this shift and as we move through 2013, 2014, and so forth, we're going to have more and more information available to us from those realms to help us, because we're going to have access. The barrier to them is not going to be there anymore from that outside disturbance, that outside force. And it's real.
Now, Rocky wants to know, do we have twins in another dimension?
I've never been asked that question.
I hope my twin's 6 feet tall and great legs.
Right? 30 forever.
Yes, exactly.
I can't answer that because I don't know the answer to that question.
Outstanding, and I appreciate when you say that. We've got a couple more questions for you here. Searching wants to know, are you ever able to tell when someone will die, and is there ever a time when you feel you can tell the person?
Well, yes, I do have that sensory input. Many times I can just sense it in the energy field, but I'm not the all-knowing, all-seeing, right? So I don't go there to even discuss that with somebody. I really don't. It's a personal thing, and it's something that they can choose to change at any moment in time, right? So I just respect that information, but I don't really pass it on.
I was always taught that the future was written in pencil.
Totally.
And we've got an extraordinary story sitting next to me right here. She's been in stage 4, 7 years now?
Well, 8 years.
8 years, stage 4, and a couple more just having in cancer. And, the doctors have given up. They just call her a miracle at this point. But, it's a tribute to her spirit, to how she's helped others, and her support system. So,
but I did have a wonderful near-death experience. A beautiful near-death experience.
Yeah.
You want to share that?
Well, yes, if you like. I had pneumonia, and I supposedly was going to die, according to the doctor. I did, and I was sitting up because I couldn't lay down, and I had these 2 huge, big black birds to go sit on each shoulder, and then all of a sudden, all this beautiful fire or fumes or whatever smoke came out of the wall, just billowing. Beautiful color, and I just thought, well, come ahead, I'm ready. And it just went away. I was a little disappointed. But it really has made dying a lot better.
I can totally understand that because, good God, it's difficult being here in the body on this third dimensional reality in this planet. It is not easy. I mean, come on. It's been a planet of pain largely because we've been denied information about who we really are and the mechanics and the attributes of our spirit and how we really operate. And I can appreciate that. Sybil, my mom passed away. I write about it in my blog, and I never had a near-death experience, when I was going through cancer and things like that. But I had a strong will because I was not going, so, I was resolute. But when my mom passed, I was very, very close to her. And the night that she passed away, I was really afraid to go to sleep because the pull for me was so strong. And being a medium, I just wanted to go. I'm like, I'm done with this stuff here. I'm out of here. Done. And I went to sleep that night, and I made a friend of mine hold and sleep with me and hold my hand that night while I was sleeping because I was afraid. What happened is my heart was broken when she passed, right? That night, I finally, fighting back the need to close my eyes, I fell asleep, and I feel my heart just take a stop. Boom. And I heard this buzzing, and out I go of my body. And there I am, looking for my mother on the other side, which was, all I can say, is a most amazing place. There were beings in white, and I could sense my mother around me, but there was a barrier because the pull was so strong for me to be with her to make sure she was okay. And they kept saying, you got to go back. Not your time. So, with a lot of, I really didn't want to come back, but I heard the buzzing. I felt myself come back down. I saw my body. I anchored into my body, and I heard my heart take a beat, and I took a breath. And simultaneously, my friend who slept with me that night and held my hand pulled on my arm because she heard a piercing in her ear to anchor me back in the body. But it takes away the fear of death. I know.
Yes.
And this is temporary. Use it. Enjoy it, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've got chat burning up. Next question from Tex. Please tell us about other worlds. Do you talk to other people when you get there?
Well, it's not exactly like that. It's interdimensional. It's so hard to describe unless you've experienced it. It's like on some of these timelines and dimensions, your spirit actually exists. Your soul stream, your blueprint, that which you came in with, to the planet. And so as you go out and merge in other dimensions and timelines, you're actually meeting other aspects of self that are out there creating and doing other things. And so it's more about merging with self rather than external, you understand, energies and entities, even though we know we're not alone in the cosmos. Come on. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other life force and life forms out there. So if that makes sense, I really think that that's what this whole 2012 timeline is about also, is accessing other aspects of our higher self and consciousness within our divine blueprint, soul blueprint, that we're able to integrate, merge with, so that we become more whole, creating heaven on earth, right? We're creating heaven on earth right here. And this is what the Indigos, this is what all of humanity is working on. We're just maybe not totally conscious of it.
Excellent. And we've got a good question to lead in. Mr. Positive says, well, who are we and why are we here?
Good question. We are infinite consciousness. We are aware beings. We are infinite consciousness born of the Creator, right? That one unified source of energy. Each of us individually expressing ourself as individuals in a body through the genetics and the DNA. And who you are and what your role is unique to you. I believe we're here all serving humanity to shift these grids and the quarantine that's been around the earth to prevent us from really being able to tap into who we really are, which is that infinite consciousness, the spiritual aspect of who we are.
Okay, we've got a question from Mobley, and Violet kind of jumped into it as well. Mobley says, I've heard that we are moving from the third dimension to the fourth dimension. Is that true? And if so, what characterizes the fourth dimension? And Violet adds, what would be the fifth dimension as well?
Well, from my own awareness, yes, I would say that that is exactly what we are doing, because we're being given access to other energies as we're traversing out in this planet, moving through this particular cycle in time, to shift. It's dimensionally. It's like shifting with consciousness. It's not like we're going anywhere, right? We're just having another level, another layer, another form of intelligence available to us. So from my perspective, yes, that is what's happening. As far as going to the fifth, I mean, I really can't answer that. I think there's some information out there that discusses that as well. So I would say we just have to use our own discernment to try to understand who, what's really happening here, and these timelines are changing, and it's real. But again, discernment is the key. I'm not the all-knowing, all-seeing. I'm just somebody who's worked my whole life to try to awaken, to try to identify who I was, why I'm here, why I have all these bizarre experiences, and put them into into the soup and say, okay, how can I make the best of all of this knowledge and share it with others? So.
And I have a follow-up question, because I belong to a group on Facebook where we discuss spiritual issues. And what I've noticed for myself personally, and with many of my friends or people who are interested in learning more about spiritual stuff, I feel like I'm accelerating. For instance, for example, and she's listening, there's a great woman who's been on the show, Lisa Transcendence Brown, who, like you, I've had amazing conversations with. But I got really upset about something. Someone really made me angry, and she happened to be up at 1 in the morning. And so we had this great talk within an hour. I was able to say, boom, this is where it's from. And when I woke up 8 hours later, I was great. I was angry. It came up, but it was able to release. And I felt like I had just shed another layer. And many people I'm talking to are saying the same thing. We're getting rid of it more quickly. So what are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree with you. I've been processing and integrating my whole life. I mean, my whole life. I have, we can call them dark nights, where there would be extended periods where I'm in emotional pain because we've been so assaulted in the emotional body. Men don't cry. Don't tell anybody the way you feel. Don't communicate it's through the feeling, through the emotional body, that we access the higher aspects of our spiritual nature, and it's been denied us. You see, because that's where the power is. So I agree with you, because as we're starting to awaken, we're not so afraid to look at the emotions, and it's right there, Julie, where we need to go. That's it, right there. Look at your stuff, own it, don't hang on to it, move through it, and let it go. Forgiveness is more for yourself than anybody else, right? And dealing with it. And I agree. It's all about processing the emotional body to access and gain higher levels of consciousness. That's what we're doing.
And we have a question from Watcha, who says, I want to live forever. How can I do that? And I believe, wouldn't you say we do live forever because we're infinite consciousness, right? Have I been paying attention?
We do. You're right. But maybe he wants to live with his body intact. Here's the good news about being infinite consciousness. We're all we ever were, all we ever will be, and all that ever was. So, recorded in our DNA, in our soul blueprint, it's kind of like software coding, right? It's always there. The information is always there. But we might drop the density of this physical body because, it ages, it gets sick. It's not fun to be in the body, because many of us have come from other timelines and dimensions, from our previous incarnations, maybe from other planets where we had light bodies. Right? So the good news is, even if you're leaving this plane and you're going back home to the other side, you can choose what you want to do with yourself when you're over there. Do you want to go to another planet? You want to come back to Earth? What kind of body do you want? Do you want a dense physical body? You want a light body? So be excited. This is exciting times, and we are eternal. We sure are.
And Warrior Spirit wants to know, are aliens friendly, and do people eat food in other dimensions and on other planets? He must be hungry tonight.
Well, I don't know about you, but I can honestly tell you something that's happening here with the food thing is, as we start to shift in consciousness and frequency and awareness, and as we start to understand, how we really decode reality and how the brain works in that whole process, and our belief systems either enhance or detract from our perceptions and awareness as we drop the density, drop the weight, drop the density, drop the emotions. I'm very happy having fruit and vegetables. I don't need the density of the food anymore. So this is part of the attributes of becoming less dense in the physical body and moving toward a higher frequency of awareness. But from what I can discern and from what I can say just from my experience, there are many other life forms that really don't need to have food. Protein can come in the form of a fruit-like substance on other dimensional planes. You know what I mean? So it just depends. Was there anything else to that question that I was supposed to ask? Or was that
I believe you got that, but I want to get back to indigo adults and bring it back around to that.
Okay.
So there be people out there who are indigo adults. They just haven't awakened yet. And if they haven't, is there anything, a way to help them in that process to awaken and be comfortable with that?
Well, yes, absolutely, because I think the majority of your viewers tonight, they feel inside something needs to be expressed through them, but they might feel a wall, I call it like a frequency fence, where they just can't get out what they know. They can't find their groove, their niche, their way to express. So really, as we've talked about, it has everything to do with the emotional body, Julie. It's being willing to look at your stuff objectively, without a lot of fire in your belly and a lot of drama around it. It's about understanding that thoughts and emotions are frequency. And as you're awakening, you want to stay in the highest frequency range possible, right? So definitely move away from things that are negative. You've got negative influences. Move away. That's just toxic. There's no need to be polite. Toxic, negative, forgive you, and off I go, okay? Eating higher vibrational foods, being out in sunlight, being with like-minded people like your beautiful program you do here, getting connected to a community, okay, where there's a mutual respect and fostering of love for each other, for humanity. It's all about managing your vibration, and then comes the consciousness and the awareness. Walking, movement, exercise, sunlight, high vibrational foods, getting out of negative, draining relationships. Oh my God, that's a biggie, right? That's a big one. So,
absolutely.
And not being afraid. Watching the fear. I call it the fear meter. When your fear meter is over here, it's too high. Hey, you've got to back up, take a look at what you're fearful of. Look at it. Many times it's really not as fearful as you even think it is. Once you go through it, you're like, oh, okay, I just went through that. Okay. And keep moving. Keep going forward with gentleness and respect for yourself.
There was a part.
Now, Sybil's got a question for you.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think, or do you have any statistics that these people who are finding their ways and wandering around perhaps commit suicide more than other people?
I absolutely do. And that, Sybil, yes. That brings up a real painful subject for me, but that's okay. I'll share that with you. But yeah, absolutely, because here we are in a body on a planet, and we have a socially engineered system telling us, education, this is the truth. Law, this is the truth. Medicine, this is the way you heal. Religion, this is the way you believe, or you're not going to heaven. It's not teaching us about who we really are, which is infinite consciousness dwelling within a body, right, while we're here on the earth, to really shift the collective consciousness field so that humanity can awaken to a grandness, a golden age. You'll hear people talk about that, a freedom that we haven't had before. So yes, a lot of people are, absolutely, because they see the hypocrisy, they see the injustice in the systems, they don't know how to express themselves, their emotional body has been so damaged that they can't even express that emotion. And I'll just give you a good example, and this is where the pain comes from me, is my nephew passed away at 28 years old, and with drugs, and he was an indigo, and even with, my brother's only son, so it's an incredible loss when a young soul wants to go. But he couldn't tolerate, his sensitivity to everything was overwhelming him, because he just felt everything, almost part like autistic. I think that's kind of what indigos are in a way. We're very hypersensitive to frequency, sound, energy, thoughts, people, negativity. But yes, you're right on. And Jason, unfortunately, was involved with drugs, right? Because it pulls in the field, it numbs you down, and you're not feeling all the time. You're not sourcing all the time. So he was beautiful. His name was Jason Philip Miller, and beautiful boy. So I know he's listening. He's with us. So, but yeah, good question. Good question.
We have a follow-up question from Boy who says, is there anything spiritual about alcohol? And Peyote help me see other dimensions.
Can peyote help me see other dimensions?
And if there's anything spiritual about alcohol and drugs.
Well, let me tell you what. I want. My whole thing is I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. I don't want anything to disturb my level of consciousness or vibration. I don't want anything to manipulate me so that I lose my discernment or I lose my focus or awareness, right? Because when we really begin to understand what's going out on these multidimensional realms, and you're using drugs and you're using alcohol, you might as well just open up your whole light body, your whole auric field to a soup of cosmic frenzy feeding off of your energy body. Not worth it. Don't do it. Not good. I think it's traps. Again, they're traps. They're traps for us here on the planet to numb us out, dumb us down and disconnect us from our infinite consciousness. So, yeah, that's just me. You can tell I'm a little passionate about it, but I see in my readings and my sessions with so many people who have lost loved ones to those abuses. They're addictions, and believe it or not, they are possessions from those etheric realms. Hands down, take it to the bank. Absolutely.
I'd agree with you on that. When you see someone who's truly addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it is, it takes over their life.
It's a true possession. And see, that's the funny thing about us, because see, we're only perceiving in a very narrow range of frequency called visible light within a whole range of an electromagnetic spectrum, right? We have we have, from X-rays, infrared waves, gamma waves, right? We have a whole range of frequency, but we're sourcing from a very narrow frequency range of input that we can actually process. But listen, what's happening just outside of those interdimensional realms, when we start using drugs and alcohol, we start to open up our field and our level of perception. And if you don't know where you are out in those realms, and you don't know what you're attaching and what's attaching to you, because you can't see it here, they can see you, you can't see it. Hey, it's a very dangerous game to play. Very dangerous.
We've got a question from Warrior Spirit. What is a positive way to create wealth? Any spiritual tricks? I would not use the word tricks, but what are your thoughts, Terri?
Well, can someone please answer that for me? Honestly, I have to tell you, I think wealth is about being at peace. I think wealth is about feeling good about who you are and what you contribute to humanity. We need these little green strips of paper to function down here in this third dimensional reality, but honestly, it's all about finding out what makes you happy and what you want to do and doing it with passion. Whatever it is. And you'll find your way. I've been in business. I've done business in I call it my other life, and I've had successes. I've had failures. I've had the whole gamut of experiences. That's life. But I do what makes me happy, and this is something that makes me happy, sharing, so.
I want you to address, I first became interested in the topic of indigo adults because we had a previous guest on, Susan Reynolds, who I'd seen, and she was like, when I talk about indigo kids, does it resonate with you? And I said, yeah, well, but I'm an adult, so kind of, sort of. But my understanding is that indigo adults and children have a strong sense of mission and purpose. So can you address that?
Yeah, that's actually very true. I mean, there's always something inside of us wants to express itself, that wants to be greater than who and what we do. If we're at a job or we're doing something menial, it's not really our passion, but it's something we need to do for the green strips of paper. But yes, and it can be different, Julie, for everybody, because really there just needs to be an internal shift, a hunger for awareness, a hunger for truth, and the ability to want to go wherever that journey leads you. It doesn't mean leave your job, and it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that. It means doing everything in order, everything with balance, right? Balance is the key here to when we're awakening. Otherwise, we'll be standing on a street corner babbling, right? And that's not what we want to do. Balance and order. So, when it comes to some of us, like my passion is expressing, teaching, and doing, and I do it, okay? I don't do it full time, but I do it, right? And it's like all of us. We have missions, whether we do it all the time or a little bit, it comes out, it's expressed, it's joyful. But there are also people, adults, and primarily in the kids that I see, because in a lot of my readings and sessions, I get a lot of that input from parents and stuff about their children, and I can sense who they are. There's a lot of non-action taking place for these indigo kids. Okay, here's an example. Don't want to go to the current model and system of learning and education. Have no interest in it, right? So it's their non-action of participating in these socially engineered structured systems that actually make those socially engineered structured systems have to change. So sometimes it's by non-participation. You understand? It's not like even by doing anything that's grandiose that we would identify with. Sometimes it's a non-action, and that's their passion. So
Terri, if we have some listeners and viewers thinking, I might be an indigo adult, how would it benefit them? Why should they care? How does it help them to know that they are possibly an indigo adult?
Well, I think it can give a context or a framework for them so that they can actually understand why they have deja vu, why they're seeing people who've passed away, why they have intuition, why they're sensing, knowing, and feeling things that are out on the invisible realm. It gives a context, right, to an attribute of their multidimensional consciousness that they're beginning to experience and express. But like I said, Julie, I think we all have that. We are all that, all humanity, It's not defined to a list, right, of attributes, because we all express differently.
Absolutely. Now, we've got a question from JJ on chat, and he wants to know, how do we figure out reoccurring dreams?
Hey, that's a good question. Wow. I will tell you something. I journal and I write almost every day. Not just about dreams, about experiences, and things that are habitual, like cycles of behavior or things that when you start to look at your dreams, I always believe it's like a reflection of there can be distortion, remember, because at night when we're dreaming, we're also out in those multidimensional realms, right? We're active, our spirit is out there processing and working and acquiring knowledge and growing and learning. So then when we wake up in the physical body, we're still in another dream. So while we're in this dream and not the dreaming dream, I think it's very good to journal. Because through your own awareness of your dreams and by journaling and documenting it diligently, you're going to get messages, insight, and information that's going to help you continually go and grow and awaken. I hope that answers that question. This is individual. There's not one standard answer, right? We're unique individual spiritual beings.
Well, excellent, JJ. If you have a follow-up, feel free to chat it, or anyone can call in at 919-518-9773 or Skype in Computers 2K Voice. I'm sorry, I got a laptop here. We're doing a makeshift radio show from Sybil's bedroom. So, Terri, what are things that indigos need to be aware of? For instance, I read that our energy can be easily drained. So what are some things that it might be beneficial for indigos to know?
Okay, so like we've been talking is when we're talking about our third dimensional level of reality, right, not the interdimensional or multidimensional aspects where these cosmic forces reside, one of the biggest things is we really need to watch the level of negativity that is around us, and the people who, don't bring joy into our lives. I mean, these things are really important to look at. We really, really, really have to understand that we need to protect ourselves, our energy body, our light bodies, from those energy vampires. And I know everybody knows what we're talking about. It can be a boss, it can be a husband, it can be a wife, it can be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be the mailman. I don't know, whoever you're having your interaction with. Pay attention. How do you feel? How do they make you feel? And move away from what doesn't feel good. Start sourcing joy. And you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings, right? You don't have to be rude and abrupt. You have to be observing in a neutral mode. Look out of these eyes and look and to see, hey, how do I feel by that interaction? Does that feel good? Well, guess what? If it doesn't, don't keep engaging your energy, right? Pull it back and observe and treat yourself with respect. And I would say that's really key for the third dimensional level of reality that we function on, is keeping those vibrations high, right? The negativity, staying out of fear states, looking at your fear, writing it down. Don't get freaked out. Just stay in a neutral mode. Pull it in. Stay calm. Sunlight, high vibrational foods, right? All of the yoga, whatever it is that connects you back to the center to help you find balance so you're not at these extreme behaviors. Because a lot of us indigos have a lot of we're emotional beings, right? And it's hard to manage that because we've been damaged in the emotional body. So where are you? What would consciousness do, right? What would consciousness do? Your infinite consciousness. Pull it back. What would consciousness do in this situation? Pull back the fear. Stay calm. Don't let your energy be drained. Don't let anybody else take your energy. In a state of grace and love and appreciation, share. But where you have the energy drain, the energy vampires, and that negative source, unhook. Unhook.
And I would also add loving yourself and respecting yourself. Because when you love and respect yourself, it's a heck of a lot easier to put those boundaries and say, you know what? My relationship with you doesn't make me feel good, and I care about myself too much now to engage with you.
I agree with you 100%. And they kind of go hand in hand, don't they? You set boundaries, and then more self-love and validation comes. And, it's but it's very true, because who you really are is an eternal, infinite consciousness being. You are love. You are God consciousness. You're a creator. This is who we are. But it's that we forgot. Humanity's been put asleep, anesthetized, dumbed down to believe that they're just the body-mind, right? When we are infinite consciousness. And for the indigos and for all of those in humanity that are seeking to awaken, the energy is available for us now to disconnect from the body-mind, the program on 3D, and go over to the soul, the spirit, and understand those attributes and experience who we really are. It's exciting.
How can indigos best use their gifts?
Wow. By being authentic? I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I was just thinking, how is that? By really being authentic with yourself. I mean, it doesn't mean you go quit your job tomorrow because you read a list and you're an indigo and you're going to go, heal the world and save the planet. No. We're talking about being authentic in a very balanced way of saying, hey, just like we talked about, that doesn't resonate with me. Or I have an interest here that I want to go read a book on life after death. Or I have an urge to kind of drive down here to the park, right? And I'm going to sit there and just be with myself for a little bit. It's about being authentic, and it's about listening to that voice inside. And it's about following joy, going toward joy. What brings you joy? What brings you balance?
All right, we have one last chat question who wants to know if eating meat is bad.
I eat meat. So to me, it's not. I mean, there's, again, I have a master's in nutrition, and I have done a lot of nutritional counseling with people. And, we're so confused about what we should and shouldn't do down here in these realms that I say, you know what, you got to follow what's inside. And you'll be corrected. You'll be guided. So I don't think we need to get so hung up on should and shouldn't. It's what is right for you.
Now, Terri, there might be someone out there, Indigo adult, just a regular Joe who's maybe in a bad job, bad relationship. They're really in a dark place. What advice would you have for them?
Well, because so many of us are, hey, it's not easy for me either. I have joy in expressing this and working like this, but believe me, there's challenges to awakening. It is just not, one day you wake up and you have a gift and you do this, and there are challenges because we're different. We're expressing ourselves differently than the masses, right? So we're usually misunderstood, which is, I understand that. So many of us are wounded too, very wounded in the emotional body because we've always known we were different. We've wanted to express ourselves in kind and loving ways, and we've had a lot of betrayal from those closest to us. Again, I think all done for reasons that I don't know why some of us go through such hardships here and challenges, but I know there's a lot of distortion in the consciousness fields which make people do things that they wouldn't normally do if they were connected to their infinite consciousness. Let's just say it that way. So what we really need to do and look at when we're in those places is, number one, I think to reclaim our energy and our state of being, because this is what we're talking about, balance, the emotional body, right? We have control over our opinions. Essential. We have control over our choices. We have control what we move away from by avoiding the negative ego, right? And the need to want to control everything in our realm, because that's not the way it works. Spirit doesn't flow with control. It's letting go, feeling the pain, moving, doing your work. And we have control over what we move toward in seeking peace and joy. And so I have always used that kind of 4 cornerstones as a way to always keep myself in check, And I think, again, it's managing the state, pulling it in the midst of chaos and knowing you're going to be okay because you're infinite consciousness. That's who you are. We're going to be okay.
Excellent. We are. But we got to get off the couch because I'm all about getting off the couch. So what one step after the show, tonight, tomorrow morning, can people do to reawaken their brilliance?
Wow. As we talked about, respect yourself, respect your feelings, your intuition, care for your body, care for your spirit. Be compassionate toward those, even if others have hurt you. It doesn't mean you need to hang out in their space. Have compassion and move away. Get on with your life. Keep on moving forward. Look for truth. Look for light. Look and move and source for joy. And you'll find your way. We all do. We all do.
Now, Terri, if people want to find out more information about you, tell us where we can go. And if you have anything else, classes or anything else you want to tell people what's coming up.
Well, you can go to my website, which I think, should I say it, Julie? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's Vibrations with an S in truth.com. There, it just talks about some of my readings and sessions that I do, and my blogs. I have a free newsletter that you can sign up for because I just always like to write experiences that I'm having. Maybe it'll help somebody else out there. And love your life, no matter what's in front of you. Love and embrace your life. It's a short period of time that we're here, and this is an exciting time to be alive, no matter what chaos is going around you, because it's around me too. It's around all of us, okay? It's just I'm managing my state, right? Like, this is what we're all to do. Enjoy it, because we're going through unparalleled times, and it's an exciting time to be alive. And I can tell you, the spirit plane, they're lined up waiting to want to come into planet Earth. So, because we are going through a pivotal time in consciousness, evolution, and change.
Outstanding. Well, I want to thank everyone. Thank you, Terri.
Thank you,
Julie.
Julie.
I want to thank all our listeners and viewers tonight. And this will be... I'll be back in Raleigh next week if they can fit me on the plane. Sybil has stuffed me. I've eaten lots of good Louisiana food, but I want to thank Sybil for being my co-host tonight.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
And everyone, if you want a stress-free holiday, go to reawakenandbrilliance.com to check out my next Thrive series so you don't go crazy over the holidays. And we'll see you all here next week. Bye now.
Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now, with Amnon Nissan, Sundays 9 a.m. to noon. Health In with Debbie Brooke, Mondays 11 a.m. to noon. The Scope of Things with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 7 to 8 p.m. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 8 to 9 p.m. Body Talk with Cindy Prince, first Tuesdays 8 to 9 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays 8 to 9 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by thatvidblasterguy.com, carolinaapparel.com, and deltaforce.net.